Hello, welcome to another episode of Top3Tech. I'm your host, Jerry Ruiz, and today we're bringing you the Gigabyte GeForce RTX 4060 Ti AERO OC 16G. I'm pretty sure I got that down perfectly. People are talking bad about the 4060 Ti's. This is the 16 gigabyte version, so hopefully it's not as bad as people say, or hopefully by the time you watch this, maybe the prices have gone down. But we're gonna see how it is. And before we get started, I'm just going to show that this sticker right here is kind of, they gave me a bad sticker on my box, so I wasn't able to take that off without damaging the box, so it's going to stay. Let's go ahead and get started with the unboxing and the benchmarks. So I went ahead and unflapped it, gross, just because I don't want to tear the box while I open it, even though it shouldn't really matter because, like I said, I got this ugly sticker stuck on here, and look, it's all dented right here, dented right here. The back is all dirty. I don't know if you could tell. Look at, jeez, they dragged this thing through the warehouse or something. Dented right here, so yeah, it is what it is. I do like that this box inside is black, has Gigabyte on it. It's nice little touches like that. Makes me happy. So right off the bat, we have the, what is this? Is either warranty or the quick install. The quick install guide. Just tells you how to remove your GPU real quick in many different languages. Insert, plug in the connectors, whatever. It's just a little generic thing. Padding on top, very thin, but we got some. Very nice looking card. White GPUs always look stunning. And the anti-static back. Dang, look at all these freaking tape on there. And that's it. So let's go ahead and get a close-up on this thing. This card does measure 281 millimeters in length. It has a triple fan design. It is two-tone color schemed, white on the outside, silver in the middle. The case is all plastic, and it does have AERO in the middle of the fans. The silver metal backplate on the back of this card, AERO Gigabyte and GeForce RTX written on it, heat screen to the right, and BIOS overclock silent on the bottom middle. We have Gigabyte written on the top left, AERO on the bottom left, and that does have RGB, GeForce to the right of that. We got the 8-pin socket on top. You'll pretty much never see this side, but it does have the big radiator along the card, or the aluminum fans, whatever you like to call it. It does support two DisplayPort 1.4a slots, not the DisplayPort 2.1s, unfortunately, and it does support two HDMI 2.1 slots. Let's go ahead and compare these cards, at least physically. I mean, here's a little better close-up of the GPU. These lines are a sticker. It says AERO all along the fans. Creativity starts here. There's a little indent here, the only one with that. We have the Sapphire Pulse RX 6800. This is the non-XT. Non-RGB. It's got the Sapphire blades. It's got the Pulse lines. And this is 16 gigabytes of VRAM. Same as this card. They're both around the same price range. You can find these for $450 to $500 depending on the sale and the day and what type of GPU you're looking for. We do have the Acer Predator Bifrost Intel Arc A770 OC. I really like this card. It has a Predator logo there. The AERO Blade 3D fan there. That fan has RGB as well. Both of those do. It has an all-metal look, as you can see. Look at that. Premium. And we have the EVGA for the Win 3 Ultra 3070 Ti. EVGA logos all on the fans in the center here. EVGA RGB bar on top. It says GeForce RTX right there. So this is if you vertically mount these cards. It's a little longer than the 4060 Ti, and it is a lot thicker. We have the PNY Accelerate Gaming Verto Epic X RGB. It's the 4080. This is a RGB X right there. It looks really nice. Accelerate logos in the middle of these fans. Super thick, but I mean it's a very powerful card. Has to be thick to let out all that heat. That's in a completely different price range. These might be similar prices. We got the Sapphire Nitro Plus Special Edition RX 6800 XT. These fans light up with RGB. We got the Nitro logo, the fox in the center. Two-toned, black and silver. I forgot to mention these are all plastic in the front. Even the 4080, just showing you. And then we have the Sapphire Nitro 7900 XTX. It's got the new Sapphire blades on there. Only the fox logo in the center. RGB bars on both sides. And it's got this gunmetal gray look on it. Gunmetal and it's actual metal. So it's a nice touch. That's my personal card, but just showing you the differences between what you get and what you pay for. So people can't make excuses on these cards. Most people don't vertically mount their cards, so this is how they'll be seeing the GPUs. I mean, I'm assuming the people that do vertically mount their cards are rising, but this is still the most common way, I believe. I have no stats to back that up, so take that with a grain of salt. It says Aero Gigabyte there, has these dots, very nice. GeForce RTX right there, big old heat vent. And this does have a BIOS switch, only 8-pin, RGB there, and GeForce RTX there. So we did a close-up already, you guys know all that. But when you compare it to, it's got silver and white two-tone, which is interesting. When you compare it to the 3070 Ti, this has the RGB bar there, 16-pin, metal backplate as well. EVGA here, holes here, those are heat vents as well, just built into the design. BIOS switch as well. Overclocked, normal. It's nice that GPUs feature that. We have the PNY Accelerate Gaming. It has a nice touch. I like how they put this PNY logo into the heat vent. It's a nice little touch, and I'm sure it doesn't mess with the output of heat too much because it's gonna blow out anyways. The Accelerate logo lights up, and then the X from the front creeps up a little bit right there too. So you do see some RGB. This one doesn't have a BIOS switch, which is odd. And it does use the 12VH PWR adapter. You plug in the 3 8 PCIEs into that dongle, so it's 24-pin. We have the Sapphire Pulse. This is the only card with non-RGB today. It's got the nice Pulse logo there. It'd be cool if that lights up, but it is what it is. It has the heat vent here, or heat screen, whatever you guys want to call it. I call it heat vent. BIOS switch as well. Sapphire logo down there. 16-pin, Radeon there. Not too shabby. Like I said, these three are going to be contenders. This one just because of size. But we have the Sapphire Nitro Plus 6800 XT. Radeon logo here. Sapphire Nitro Plus written there. The Fox logo lights up, RGB. Heat vent. BIOS switch. Radeon. That lights up and says Sapphire. 16-pin. Very nice card. That was my main card until I got this. Got the gunmetal gray. Whoa. The gunmetal gray, Radeon written there, Sapphire there, it lights up, small heat vent, but this card stays very cool. It has a vapor chamber in there. The RGB bar down there on both sides, 24-pin. It's got this little ridge here to help support the GPU, still sags very heavily. And then of course we got the Acer Predator, the Predator logo there, Predator written out all here. A lot of people say they don't like the looks of it. It looks childish, so it is what it is. I don't think it's too bad. It says Intel Arc there, heat vent there, 16-pin Intel Arc there, Predator and Predator light up. It looks very nice. This one doesn't have a BIOS switch. Only thing I don't like about that card. But that's how they look physically. Different cards for different folks. And I think looks is a very important factor because I know you're going to be looking at the screen more often than not. But still, you look at your computer and you're going to want to like what you see. So let's go ahead and put this thing in the PC and see how that looks. I'll be placing this GPU inside of my Lee & Lee Lancool 2 case. It's mostly black. It has some gray in it, but mostly black, so it might not match too much. But my next build's going to have a lot of black and silver. That way you can match the white GPUs a little better. But let's go ahead and insert it in there. So I put the whites all light. What? I put the lights all white. Jeez. And that way you can match the card a little better and look better in the black case. But that's how it looks like in the case. You can see a lot of space, a lot of room. But let's go ahead and get to the benchmarks. The unboxing's all done. Before we go on to the benchmarks, let me go ahead and introduce the Top3Tech PC specs. We have an Asus X570 Tough Gaming Plus Wi-Fi motherboard. We have a Ryzen 7 5800X CPU. We have 32 gigabytes of Corsair Vengeance 3200 MHz RAM. And of course, today we're going to be testing the Gigabyte AERO 16GB 4060 Ti. This GPU runs on PCIe Gen 4 bus lanes. It has 128-bit memory bus, just like the 8GB version. It has 2595 MHz of boost clock. It runs on 16GB GDDR6 memory. It is on the Lovelace architecture, and they do recommend a minimum 500 watt PSU. We are going to be testing some games with DLSS 3 and frame generation. If it doesn't say DLSS 3, then it's tested out on the DLSS 2. And on Cyberpunk, we're going to be testing it out before the 2.0 update. So results may be different after that. So, after seeing those benchmark results, I'm sure you might be a little confused. I was puzzled as well. Before we go a little further, let's just talk about how it performed. At 1440p, we got 110 frames per second on average. The demanding games were averaging 90 frames per second. So depending on what games you play, you might want to keep that in mind. And this is at ultra settings, so you could always tinker with it a bit. At 1080p, we averaged 160 frames per second. The demanding games were 90 to 110 frames per second. Again, you could tinker with it as well. This is at ultra settings, so you could change some things, maybe try to get a higher frame rate, but either way, that's what you get. When it comes to ray tracing, that's where the NVIDIA cards shine, and this is where this card technically shines as well, because it beats the 8 gigabytes barely. So the extra 8 gigabytes helps with the ray tracing since that is more demanding, but it doesn't give it like double the boost, which I know it technically shouldn't. But you would think it'd get more performance than the 4060 Ti 8 gigabyte. But at 1440p, you get 77 frames per second. Cyberpunk gets 23.39, which is not too bad. You could always mess with the settings, try to get 30 frames per second at 1440. At 1080, you get 100 frames per second, and Cyberpunk gets 38. And it beats the 8 gigabyte version by about like 3 to 7 frames per second, depending on the game. So you're not really getting that much of a performance boost. And not just ray tracing, but this card barely beats, it ties, or it even loses to the 8 gigabyte version. Because of the 128-bit bus, that's limiting how much performance you can get out of the card. It's kind of bottleneck right there. And then since it has 8 gigabytes more of VRAM, it has to work a little harder, or not harder, but it has to, it works a little more harder because it has more VRAM to run. So that also affects the performance because you get a little thermal throttling. Not too much, but by a frame or two. So the 8 gigabyte card is $100 cheaper than the 16 gigabyte card, and yet it performs the same. So that's not good at all. And even when it ties it, that's not good at all because again, you're spending $100 more to get the tie. And then even if it beats it, it's barely at like 1 to 3 frames that it beats it in most games. So that's not worth it at all. The 6800 non-XT, you could find some for around $400 brand new, and you get about 20 more frames per second on most games, just depending on the game. I would probably recommend getting that, especially if you just want to play natively, not super sampled, with the DLSS or FSR. I would recommend getting the 6800 over the 4060 Ti, the 8 gigabyte and the 16 gigabyte because it's the same price as the 8 gigabyte version, $100 cheaper than the 16 gigabyte version, and you're getting your money's worth. You can find some 3070 Ti's for around $480. If not, there's other options. But the 3070 Ti performs about the same as the 6800, and it's worth it spending that extra $70 if you want that ray tracing performance because it performs better than the 4060 Ti, 8 gigabyte and 16 gigabyte in ray tracing. So I could show you some links, but maybe you could wait and see to find a 3070 Ti on sale. This card being $530, there are 4070 Ti's that might go on sale, and you might be able to get that instead of this. I don't know when that would happen, maybe during Prime or something like that. If that's possible, maybe do that. I don't like to compare them used because, well, I just like to compare them new because you can find great deals used sometimes, but everyone has different situations, so you never know. And then I would also recommend getting a 6800 XT or a 7800 XT. I would prefer the 7800 XT because they're around the same price, and at $500, $500-ish, $530, and you get a lot more performance. It beats out the 3070 Ti and the 6800, but the 6800 XT you might be able to find for $500 or under, and that's not a bad card either. So at this price range, you have so much options that are better than this 4060 Ti 16 gigabyte that I would not recommend this card at all. But I'm just going to continue reviewing it. So I forgot to mention, with the super sampling, DLSS 3 is a game changer, except for Horizon 5, it was kind of ghosting on there. But for the games where it's fully optimized, it makes a big difference, and I would recommend that. But anyways, another pro of this is the AV1 encoder. You get better quality streams at the same bit rate as previous encoder, so you can stream higher quality streams and use the same amount of internet, so that's a win there. The temps of this card weren't too bad. I have them in the charts there. But all the newer gen, they seem to run a lot cooler, which I like. The power consumption of this card isn't too bad either. You get about 167 watts during gaming, maybe a little lower, a little higher, depending. But I was getting about 167 watts. I really do like the design of this card. It being all white, it's nice. You don't see too many white cards. And it looks pretty cool. The two-tone, some people might not like it, might some, but silver, white, it should go with many builds. And of course, the BIOS switch. You're spending a lot of money on these cards. It having a BIOS switch is awesome because it's always nice to have a failsafe. And I don't really put it on quiet mode anyways, and I don't recommend it, but because you could always tune your fans to how you want. But either ways, it's nice to have it. Some of the cons with this card is no DisplayPort 2.1. It's not the biggest deal, but that is a feature that's available. The AMD cards have it, so why not include it? Better to future-proof yourself, you never know. And the price and performance of this card, they kind of tie in together generally, but I don't know. It's kind of tough to recommend this card, even if it dropped to $400. At $400, it might be better. Maybe they'll optimize this card a little better in the future as well, but I don't see myself recommending this at all. This is probably the most disappointing card I have reviewed, at least for the newer generation, for sure. Just because you added 16 gigabytes of VRAM, that should have done a good amount of work to help out the GPU get better performance, but that bit rate is terrible. That 128-bit bus is terrible, so I mean, what are you gonna do? you can't pass that bottleneck. So it's been kind of strange, the decisions that Nvidia has made on this current generation on some of their cards. Like I said, if you're gonna buy a GPU at the $530 price range, I would recommend the 6800 just because that's $400. It performs better. Maybe look for that 3070 Ti, 6800 XT, 7800 XT, or maybe we can find a 4070 Ti for cheaper. Get that. So if this card drops down in price to $480, $450, I would probably still recommend that 3070 Ti until they're no longer available. And after that, I wouldn't even know. So, yeah, I'm sorry that you watched all this and for me to tell you not to buy it. I appreciate everyone that watched all the way through. I'm probably never going to get another 4060 Ti 16 gigabyte to review. I usually try to get different models at the same tier just to compare them, the different looks and the different, some get a little bit more performance here and there. But I don't know if I'm going to get this again, you guys. But hey, never say never. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll see how other cards do in the future, but do not buy this card, especially at the $530 range. If it drops down, maybe. If you can get it for really cheap, maybe. If someone can give it to you, take the card. Other than that, I appreciate you guys and I'll catch you later. Peace. Thank you for watching another video from Top 3 Entertainment. I hope you hit like and subscribe. Also, I'm going to have a recommended playlist, a recommended video right here, so make sure to click that as well. I appreciate you guys tuning in, whether it be to the Top 3 Tech, Top 3 Gaming, or the Why Not Me podcast. You guys are dope. I hope to see you guys in the next video. And of course, let's grow this thing together. Peace. Peace. Peace.